I'm afraid I got some bad news today. Uh, for most of us, well, I'll just say for me, and I think I'm not the only one. For most of our Christian life, we've been told, we've heard, we've read that God will never give you more than you can stand. And that's not true. That's a lie. Now, it's a well-intentioned lie, and I'm not saying the people who promote that idea are big, fat liars, but the truth is, God will consistently give you and me more than we can bear. And there's a reason for that, because that's pretty much God's design for growing us. You know, our faith doesn't grow by things always working well. Our faith grows when it is, and it's stretched when it is pretty much our response to, I can't fix this, I can't do this, I can't. I love John Ortberg, is where I heard this the first time, I think. I hit the phrase, I can't, you can, I think I'll let you. We are going to be consistently pushed or pulled to a place where we have exceeded our limit. And often it's not actually that we have, it's much more that it feels like we have exceeded our limit. Paul felt that. He talks about how 3 different times he begged the Lord to take the thorn from his flesh, which he doesn't even disclose what that thorn is, but each time God said no. And his message was, my grace is enough for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. The bad news is I'm going to consistently be somehow beyond my limits and your limits. So let's do the world a favor and let's not promote that idea anymore that, God will never let you have more than you can take. God, because that's not how it works. But I have some good news. The good news is the Lord of Heaven's armies is right here with us. We are consistently pushed beyond our limits, and even though it feels like we're holding on to the very end of the last rope and we're dangling all by ourselves out here, that's not the case. Because the Lord of Heaven's armies is here among us. This comes from what we've been trying to immerse ourselves in and swim through Psalm 46, verse 7. The Lord of Heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. We have to remind ourselves of the actual reality that is sometimes not consistent with our feelings, our emotional perceptions. I often do not feel like the God of the Lord of Heaven's armies is here among us. It feels fairly often, I confess to you, that he's out there somewhere. And sometimes it feels like he's occupied otherwise. The psalmist felt that as well in other of the Psalms, where, David cries out, how long will you ignore me? How long will you let this happen? Where are you, God? It's a human emotion. When we have that human emotion, somehow we need to, I'll even say we must, come back to what is true. What's the reality? The Lord of Heaven's armies is here among us. The sons of Korah, right, the God of Israel, some translations are going to have that, the God of Jacob, which you remember the story of Jacob, if you've studied the Old Testament very much. In the book of Genesis, he spent a night wrestling with God, or an emissary of God, and there was it ended in a draw. What a wrestling match! I mean, holy smokes! And two results. One result was that Jacob had a hip issue for the rest of his life, somehow, as a result of that wrestling match, and his name was changed from Jacob to Israel. Well, okay, the God of Israel, the God of Jacob, is our fortress. This is not one of the reasons I think that the sons of Korah write the God of Israel, the God of Jacob, is to remind us that there's a bigger historical context here. This is not our God, the Lord of Heaven's armies. He is not a recently installed God. Many hundreds of years before the sons of Korah penned this poem, the God of Jacob, their Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were the triumvirate of the Hebrew origin. And this is the God, the same God that wrestled with Jacob, the same God that changed his name. He's our fortress. Now, for us today, a fortress I don't think about a fortress very much. We don't have to. We are not under some sort of military threat. But in the days of the sons of Korah in ancient Israel, it was sometimes an ever-present issue that there were armies, there was a military threat. And when that happened, a fortress is where you would retreat. As I understand it, the two primary purposes of a fortress are that you could retreat there for safety when under threat. And the second one is your weaponry, your armory was held there so that you could fight from that point. The God of Jacob is our fortress. He is our retreat. And we don't just retreat and shiver in the corner. You attack from the fortress. It's what's that look like for us today? Well, I think it's it was even when the sons of Korah wrote it. This was a metaphor. The fortress was symbolic. This is not It's not a physical fortress. Okay, so it's not for us either. Am I making, this is my question, am I making the Lord of Heaven's armies, the God of Jacob, the God of Israel, am I treating him, am I thinking of him as my fortress? The tendency I have is I treat him more like a parachute or a life jacket. I don't want to have to use either one of them, but I want them to be there when I need them. That's not a wise practice. The God of Israel is our fortress. And then, so my question is, do you and I think of him and treat him as our fortress? Verse 8, come see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world. Again, it's like there's no, I don't sense a transition here. It's like, okay, we're going to shift gears. Boom. Come see the glorious works of the Lord. When I read that, I first thought of, it won't surprise you because I've talked about it before, but I first thought of the Grand Canyon. The glorious works of the Lord. Holy smokes. It is breathtaking to me and awe-inspiring every time I get to go there. But that's not what the sons of Korah frame it up in. See the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world. That's, for them, that was a glorious work of God. Glorious destruction. There are things in my life, and there are things in your life too, that need God's glorious destruction. They need to be destroyed and removed and taken out of the way. They need to be eliminated. And God does this when we seek him for it, when we ask him for it, and when we partner with him and his Spirit at work within us. He will remove those things. Now, my experience is he rarely does that in a flash. It feels like to me there's no switch that he pops on or turns off. It's a process for most of the things in my life that need his glorious destruction. So let's talk about what are some of those things. Well, I'm going to share what some of mine are. First of all, my pride. My pride needs to be gloriously destructed. What I mean by that is my pride, not my sense of worth, not my sense of value in God's sight, but my pride. It gets in the way of almost every good thing that God intends for me. And it certainly gets in the way of the good that I can be in other people's lives. And out of pride comes virtually every negative emotion and behavior. My anger. I don't want to be an angry person. But there are times that I just am. My selfishness. I don't want to be a selfish person, but the psychological term is self-interest. That's just selfishness. I don't want to be that. Fretful. I don't want to be fretful. What's your list? Well, don't dwell on it. but realize God is in the business of glorious destruction when we let him. Well, okay. See you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.